Okay, alright. So, welcome back. Today, what I'll be covering is how to utilize the two principles that I covered previously, mirroring and sense of importance, effectively into a conversation. So, this is basically how it's going to come together, right? And if I were to do a short recap on mirroring and sense of importance, mirroring is the idea of mirroring the words back to the other person because it bypasses their subconscious mind, it resonates with their value, and it causes them to bond with you. And the idea that it creates is that you two seems to be very similar because the illusion that they get is that using your map and their words, you will generate the same exact feeling as them, which could be true or most of the time is untrue, right? And in sense of importance, I covered the key thing that all human beings are looking for in a conversation. We are looking for validation, we are looking for sympathy. And the whole idea of sense of importance is to realize that people are looking for these two things. All you need to do is give these things to them and they'll be very happy, right? And at the end of the day, what you get out of the conversation, giving them the sense of importance, is that you get their gratitude, which to a certain extent you can say that in the future they're gonna like you more, they're much more likely to do good things for you. So the whole idea is that because now I'm putting all the principles together, if at this point previously at any of the previous point where I'm covering mirroring and sense of importance, that I don't seem like a robotic lizard reptilian type person, this is the video where after showing how I actually use this framework to interact with most people, you're gonna realize that yeah, actually I'm that robotic, right? But with that is regardless of that has nothing to do with why I'm sharing this, etc., right? Those are minor points the way that I see it. But in any case, let's just jump straight into the discussion. So again, this is what I covered previously, mirroring and sense of importance. Now, I also realized that when I started sharing all of this, I can say that in some ways, in order for you to utilize mirroring or sense of importance, you need to be able to be in a conversation. So for those people who already have no problems getting themselves in conversation, they feel like, yeah, I can talk to people in general, I may not be super proficient, but I can definitely carry a normal conversation, then you can say that, well, they can really start to slowly apply their mirroring and sense of importance, right? But when I started thinking about sharing this framework, I see it from the perspective of, okay, what if people in general have the same troubles in communicating with people in general as I did? So the bare minimum that I must be able to equip them with in order for them to start applying this mirroring and sense of importance is that they must be able to, one, get into a conversation, and two, survive the conversation, right? Because that's only in the situation where they can start to apply all these principles. So I will touch on very, very basic body language because, well, I can talk about body language for 45 minutes, but that's going to be a whole video altogether, right? At this point, the purpose of this video is just simply how to use mirroring and sense of importance in an actual conversation. So for the basic body language that you need, when it comes down to interacting with people, it's very simple. It comes down to smiling. And I don't think smiling is something that it's going to be extremely new to you, or it's going to be something that's going to be very surprising, like, wow, I need to smile in a conversation. Yes, we need to smile in a conversation. Reason being is that for human beings, attention is actually very intrusive. This is why when people stare at us, we feel a certain sense of uneasiness. And you can say that the reason this is the case, that this stems from the animal side of us, right? In terms of, think of it this way, if let's say now you're in the wild, because I don't know why you'll be in the wild, maybe you are camping, right? And you come along, not that you come along, right? You know, a bear suddenly wanders into your view. Now, if the bear pays you no heed, then in some sense you can say that, like, okay, you have a certain amount of peace in mind because at the very least the bear is not actively staring at you. But at the same time, you can say that you keep your eyes on the bear, because in that situation, you kind of is a prey compared to the predator, which is the bear. But if it's a whole different story compared to if the bear were to stare you down. If let's say right now you're camping, you come across a bear, not to say that you'll come across a bear when you're camping, right? You're most likely, a bear wanders into your camp and the bear is staring you in the eyes, it would feel very, well, obviously you'll be very intimidated in that sense, right? You'll feel like there's a certain threat to yourself. And it comes down to the whole idea of the reptilian mind is only concerned about three things, right? Sustenance, survival, and reproduction. And in that situation, you can say that your survival is at risk, which is why you have this instinctual reaction to being stared down. So the reason why smiling is important is because if we were to just be neutral, we talk to people monotonous, in a monotone type of tonality, and we have a very blank facial expression, you can say that it's very difficult to determine what is it that we actually feel. How we actually feel about something. As far as I'm concerned, I could potentially want to hurt you or something, but you can't tell, right? But the whole idea is that with a smile, it diffuses the situation. It gives the idea of comfort. So this is a good balance, because on one side, on one hand, we want to have attention, but on the other hand, we also don't want to have the attention of a serial killer, if it makes sense. So the basic body language that you just need to know is that you need to smile. Then of course, a genuine smile will always affect the eyes, right? So if let's say you are looking blank and all you do is that have a smile plaster on your face, then you can say that it doesn't put people at ease. If anything, it's very uncomfortable because they can tell that there's something wrong. So if you are trying to learn how to smile for the very first time, what I find easy is that all you have to do is just like smile as hard as you can. As hard as you can, and then relax your eyes a little bit. And then you'll notice that you tend to have a smile that, well, more or less can pass for bare minimum, right? And of course, the more that you practice, then the easier this will get. But this is just on smiling alone, right? So at least the first part, bare minimum, if you want to start interacting with people, the first thing you do when you catches their eye, they catch your eyes, when you're starting to approach them, you have to smile. Alright, not this kind of just smile with the bottom, just with your mouth. Not that kind. You want to involve your eyes, right? A genuine smile will tend to squint your eyes a little bit. And yeah, you'll basically see movement in the eyes on top of the smile. Of course, a fake smile would have no interaction with the eyes, right? It will just be the smile itself. So this is the basic, this is the smile. So now it comes down to most issues that people have when it comes to interacting with somebody for the first time. And you can say that, well, this is the concern that guys would tend to have when we want to approach a pretty girl. It works in that situation, or you are in a networking event, you are very nervous to talk to somebody. All of this compounds into one single problem. And this one problem is, what do I say? You can say that the whole framework of mirroring sense of importance, and another framework that I'm going to share later on, which is the 3 magic question, all works around solving the equation of what do I say. If you follow the framework, you'll realize that, okay, this solves all your problems. You do not have to worry about this anymore. But as far as I'm concerned, you only need to worry about what you need to say in the initial interaction. So this is where I go to openers. What is an opener? So an opener let's say in the theory of pickup artists, right, is how do I approach and talk to the girl for the first time. And if you say in terms of the theories of pickup, then there is you can probably tell a joke, you can give a ridiculous statement, you can, what other thing can you say? You can give a compliment, right? However, the issue with this is that there's so many things that can go wrong when it comes down to all of this, right? So imagine when it comes down to joking, you tell the wrong joke, you're going to offend the person. So you're going to ruin your you're gonna ruin your chances in speaking to them like in the initial conversation, right? So a joke is not gonna be something that's very safe for you to do. You can say a ridiculous statement, but again, if they are not on the same wavelength, they're gonna think that, wait, this person is really weird. So again, that's not a good strategy. Then compliment. Although you can say that like, well, compliments, how badly can you screw up a compliment, right? It's actually extremely easy for you to screw up a compliment, especially if you compliment the wrong thing. You compliment the wrong thing, you can be seen as creepy. You compliment the wrong way, you can be seen as a pushover. So the whole idea is that with all this in mind, there's so many different ways that you can screw up your initial interaction. And the reason why I even come up with the framework of like mirroring and sense of importance to suit my need when I interact with people is because of this one thing. I am extremely stupid, right? I make mistakes, I'm dumb as shit, and there's so many things that will go wrong, right? If I tell the wrong joke, I'm screwed, right? If I say the wrong statement, I'm screwed. If I say the compliments, I'm screwed. So, which is why I tend not to rely on all these things. The whole idea of this framework is that I want to make it idiot-proof. On my worst days, this will work. On my best days, this will work. Again, if I'm teaching this to help somebody along so that they can get a better general interaction with people in general, this is supposed to be idiot-proof, right? It's supposed to help them avoid most of the problem. So, if we were to take away all these things, you ignore all of these things, how then do we start a conversation? Universally, I always only utilize this one opener. And you can use this regardless of what's the circumstances. You speak to your colleague, you can use this. You speak to your friend, you can use this. You speak to your client, you can use this. You speak to a romantic interest, you can use this, right? The only opener that you need in terms of risk and reward. So if let's say now there's a graph, right? Here is the risk and here is the reward, and this is the equilibrium, which is the most efficient, right? This point over here is going to be this, which is, hi, my name is, no, that's all, right? It's simple, it's straightforward. All you need to do is go up to the person and say, hi, my name is Ilong. Of course, you don't use my name, right? No, you use your own name. You say your own name to the person. But the whole idea is that this is the most efficient way. Why? Few reasons. One, it is almost impossible for you to screw up. Unlike the joke, unlike the statement, unlike the compliment, impossible for you to screw up. It's very low. In some sense, you can say it's not it's very low threat, right? It's a very non-threatening statement for the person to receive. The person don't have to think in terms of, okay, how do I process this? Is this a joke? Is this not a joke? It's just a very straightforward statement. It's very low threat. It's non-threatening. Like, hi, my name is Ilong. And this statement alone can tell you two things. One, if you are not willing to go up to somebody and you don't have the courage to go up to the person who just literally said, hi, my name is this. Nice to meet you. What is your name? Then you can say that all the other techniques, the jokes and everything, you wouldn't be able to do all those things as well. So if you're not going to be able to do all those things, and we are talking in terms of the context of a girl, then you might as well just give up right now, right? Don't waste your time, don't waste your mental capacity thinking of like, oh, how good is it? I'll have like this perfect relationship with her. You won't have the relationship with her if you are not willing to just go up to her and just say that, hi, my name is Ilong, right? So this is number one. Number two is that it's also a pre-vetting statement. Reason being is that because this statement is so non-threatening, you can say that the healthy way for somebody to gauge whether or not the person that you're talking to is a healthy human being is how they respond to this. Like what I mentioned in mirroring. The reason why mirroring is so effective is mirroring in itself is not meant to be manipulative. Because by nature, human beings, when we get into deeper rapport with each other, by nature we would mirror each other. So mirroring in some sense is a very natural process, right? So generally for the statement of like, hi, my name is Ilong, what you tend to notice and what is normal is that the person will respond in kind, which will be something along the line of like, hi, maybe nice to meet you, and then maybe they'll say like, their name, right? Oh, my name is X, right? So this can be anything, right? It can be the girl saying her name, like, oh, hi, my name is X, or it can be like a colleague, a networking event, it can be a guy saying like, oh, hi, my name is Ben. Of course, what if they don't literally say their name, because sometimes people are also nervous, then you can also just ask for their name, right? It's a little bit, again, this statement is non-threatening. At this point, you don't need to risk anything. All you need to do is just literally say your name. How they respond to this, again, the worst case now, if they respond this in a way of, ew, like, why are you talking to me? Then you know that you do not want to interact with this person, right? Regardless if this person is a romantic interest or if this person is a client, right? If the person literally comes up to you, the first thing that they interact with you is through an insult, you know that there's no point trying to pursue this. Even if it's a client that can bring you a lot of what's the thing, commission, salary, right? The case and everything like that, right? It's not worth your mental stress to actually deal with people like this. So this actually, in some sense, you're also vetting the other person, right? The important thing about interacting with the other person, and especially when you're using all this framework, is that you must remember one thing. If you do everything right, you're going to give the best possible conversation that anybody in the world could potentially get. And with that in mind, many people, if not every single person that you interacted with or will interact in the future would want to speak to people in this sense. We all want to get our sense of importance. We all want to share about what makes us special, and we want people to genuinely listen. And listening, again, why do people say that, like, one of the core skills is like listening? It's because most of the time people want to talk, right? People want to get their sense of importance. They don't want to listen. So if you're using this framework, you are giving the person the best possible, you can say, emotional fulfillment to a certain extent that they can potentially have, at least in a conversation, right? So you, in some sense, once you master this, you're going to be very valuable, and you have to start to vet people. And of course, if you notice that this person is very weird, then you have to realize that, okay, I need to move on. And this will extend, by the way, to the potential, what's the thing on my mind, right? This will extend to love interest as well. Once you start to utilize this, you'll realize that, okay, as attractive as this person potentially is, if this person is going to speak to me in the way of like, ew, why are you talking to me? Then like, there's no point speaking to this person, right? So this is number one. This is to get you through the door. Hi, my name is this. There's also another thing. Okay, now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give away my trade secret, right? This is the number one statement that I'll use universally that gives me so much, carries so much of my conversation. And if I don't teach mirroring, I don't teach sense of importance, I will only just focus on this one thing, right? This is so crucial. Okay, of course, there is a name to this principle, but I'll just put the statement itself, right? The statement is, I'm very curious about something. Oh. So, I'm very curious about something. By the way, if you want to know what principle this works on, this is on the principle of the because clause. Yeah, but you don't really have to understand the because clause at this point. Maybe at some point I'll dedicate another video to actually talk about the because clause. But the whole idea is that I'm very curious about something. It's something called a conversational softener. So, why do you need softeners? Well, one thing is that for human beings, there are certain questions that by nature is going to seem more intrusive, and we are hesitant to answer those questions. And I'm going to give you an example, right? So for example, if let's say we have a conversation and I say that, hi, my name is Elong. How much do you have in your bank account? Then most of the time when people hear that thing, right, they're gonna have the question, they're gonna have the feeling of like, no, what? And most of the time they wouldn't want to answer that, right? Because again, people are very private when it comes down to their finances. However, if you were to add the I'm very curious about something, okay, you'll notice that the emotion slightly shifts. It doesn't mean that people will answer whatever question that you preface by saying I'm very curious about something, but it makes any single one of your ask so much more palatable. So the first case, right, I want you to judge the feeling by itself, right, from me asking this question. Hi, my name is Ilong. How much do you have in your bank account? Versus, hi, my name is Ilong. I'm very curious about something. How much do you have in your bank account? If you notice the two different feelings, okay, and you pay attention about your internal feelings when those two questions are being asked, you'll realize that the second one feels easier for you to answer. And you can say that, like, oh, why is this the case? Because, again, this is called the because clause, right? The whole idea that I conceptualize how this actually works in the head is that internally in our mind, we always have a imaginary form that we have to fill out whenever a question is being asked. So, have you ever have somebody ask you a very weird question? The first thing that in your head goes like, what? Why is this person asking me this like weird question, right? The way that I conceptualize it is because of this internal form. And the idea is that this form requires the mind to fill in any sort of request with why is this question being asked, what is the request, and then maybe here is like the signature to ensure that like, this goes through, right? And when you preface things by saying that I'm very curious about something and you soften the tone, you basically answer this why. You answer this why, and then like, you fill in the request over here what, and then the mind just subconsciously file it, right? So in some sense, you can say that this because clause works on the idea of also bypassing the mind, similar to how mirroring is supposed to work. And also another reason why you want to preface everything by using the I'm very curious about something is also because of this very, very important principle. And this principle, okay, is called maybe it's easier if I just like write it out, right? It's called the am I going to be able to like put this? Okay, but the whole idea of like the principle, right? This principle, I'm just going to straight up say it, right? This is called the fuck you factor. This is called the fuck you factor. What is the fuck you factor? The fuck you factor is this. For human beings, we value our autonomy tremendously. To the point that I will even say that there is another principle that you have to take note of whenever you are dealing with human being, which is the sense of autonomy. The sense of autonomy basically is, for us, we feel like we have the rights and we have the full freedom to do anything that we want with no influence from external, with no external influence, right? Basically, we are the master of our own universe. Is that really the case? No, we are being influenced by so many things on a daily basis, but of course, we don't want to face those facts, right? The idea of this, like, FU factor is that whenever we feel like our autonomy is being breached, we will basically hunker down on our opinion and we'll double down and we'll basically become extremely stubborn. The whole idea is that the FU factor is to resist any sort of external influences. So what can trigger the FU factor? You can trigger the FU factor by saying that, like, you do this, right? Or saying that, oh, you're wrong about this, right? This is how it's supposed to be. Regardless of whether or not you are actually wrong, the fact that someone points out the thing to say that, hey, you're wrong, will trigger this FU factor. You'll notice that there probably is a time that when that happens, someone point out your mistake, you will double down and become even more stubborn. You'll be like, no, it's not wrong. Like, you're an asshole for like trying to point out. Then of course, when you realize that you're wrong, then you push all the blame to the other person, right? Because again, this is not your fault. This is human beings. This is the human animal. Blame the human animal in us. So the reason why this is also applicable in this situation, right, is that if I ask a question, there's two different ways for me to ask a question. So if let's say I ask the question without prefacing, without softening, and I say that, like, hey, hi, nice to meet you. Tell me about your last vacation. It is a request that is imposed upon you without you asking for it. It almost falls into the same category of unsolicited advice. It will cause you to have an idea of like, why should I tell you? Why should I tell you? Right, as if like, oh, I'm your dog. Am I your dog? You just comes out here and then demand that I tell you about all these things. I'm not going to tell you about all these things. And you get even more stubborn. You get resentful, right? But all these things can be prevented if you just preface all requests using a softness by saying that I'm very curious about something. Of course, changing your tonality also helps, right? Because if I'm speaking in this normal tonality, it probably isn't as effective. It probably will work. So if I say I'm very curious about something, why do you choose to do it? It probably would still work, but it's so much more effective if you were to apply a little bit of body language, right? So you soften your tone. I'm very curious about something. Could you tell me about your last vacation? And then in that situation, you can say that people would jump at the situation to actually share about their last vacation, right? Because again, they're looking for sense of importance, right? So this is the reason. Okay, principle number 2 is I'm very curious about something. Now that you know this one thing, okay, I would suggest you start applying this whenever you can. Whenever you can, preface everything by saying that I'm very curious about something. If you speak to me on a personal basis, you'll realize, if you actually pay attention, that almost all of my questions that I pose is going to be prefaced by I'm very curious about something. Almost to a certain extent, this is subconscious to me already. This is my autopilot mode. So now we are going into number 3, which is very important, right? So keep in mind, now we are not even touching in terms of using mirroring and sense of importance yet. This is number 3 is going to be the framework called the 3 magic question. The 3 magic question is not my framework. This is a framework by somebody who you can say that is a teacher in neuro-linguistic programming, and his name is David Synder. So I first learned of this principle many years ago through his YouTube video. David Synder. So if you want to know more about the NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, or you want to know more about this 3 magic question, then you probably want to search up David Synder. So I'm going to give you more or less like what this framework is like, right? And the reason why I have this framework of mirroring and sense of importance, but yet at the same time, I utilize the 3 magic question is that I see in this way. The 3 magic question gives you more or less a structure in what to actually ask. Because the 3 magic question, the whole idea of 3 magic question is to bring you through the different depth of the conversation. So you start from surface level, eventually to something that is deeper, right? Because at the end of the day, we don't want to talk about surface level things such as the weather. We actually want to talk about deeper things such as our opinions, our view in the world. Reason being is that our opinions and views clues somebody into our values. And you can say that our individual values is what separates us from each other, right? Because otherwise the human animal is actually very predictable, but what makes us unique is our individual views and the things that we value. So the whole idea is that this is supposed to bring you from surface level, which is talking about like the weather to a certain extent, and then into something that is deeper. And the whole idea of the mirroring and sense of importance framework that I covered, the purpose of this is that now that 3 magic question give you a structure, mirroring and sense of importance give you the muscle and horsepower to actually keep the conversation going. The goal of mirroring and sense of importance is to get the person to talk for as long as possible. 3 magic question is for you to guide them. Okay, this is where you want to guide them to actually speak, right? So this is how these 2 framework comes together. So for the 3 magic question, the 3 magic question comes in 3 different layers. And these 3 layers is what you generally want to bring somebody to the conversation through, right? You want to start with the basic layer, because you can say that as much as we want to share about our philosophies, our values, and everything, it's very intrusive if somebody were to come up to you and they're like, hey, hi, nice to meet you, what's your name, my name is Ilong. They're like, oh, wow, very nice to meet you. So I'm very curious, what is your philosophy in life? If I were to approach somebody in that way and then pose that question to them, it's going to, in some sense, again, trigger the why is this person asking me this question, right? Even if I were to say, I'm very curious about something, what is your life philosophy? Again, they might answer the question, but they'll feel a little bit weird, right? Because you can say that to a certain extent, I didn't follow what is socially appropriate. So you can say that 3 magic question is also with the idea of being socially appropriate, right? So now that you know that, okay, to start a conversation, you have introduced yourself. Hi, my name is this. What is the next thing that you potentially want to talk about? Which, by the way, the reason why it's called three magic questions, is because it's not you talking about the things that you want to talk. This whole framework, charisma framework, be it the thing that David Synder teaches or the things that more or less I share, all works on the idea of you want the other person to talk. You don't want to talk. Again, because you don't need a sense of importance, you want to give them the sense of importance. So the three magic questions, the first type of question that you want to ask at the start of the conversations are things related to location and occasion. So location and occasion is very easy to understand. Just think in terms of the context of where you are meeting this person. If, for example, you're meeting this person in a networking event, then one of the things that you can potentially ask is, or you can talk about initially, could be something along the line as this. Like, hi, my name is Ilong, what's your name? Oh, your name is Ben? Oh, nice to meet you, Ben. By the way, there is this one word that is the favorite word of everybody in the world. Okay, and as much as possible, if you want to get their attention, you want them to be involved with the conversation, you use this word as often as possible. And this is their individual name. Okay, whenever our names is being called, something in our brain lights up and flood our mind with happy chemicals, right? And the idea is that as much as you can, use the other person's name in a conversation. So going back to the example of me using location occasion, right? It'll go something along the line as this. Hi, my name is Ilong. What's your name? Oh, your name is Ben. Nice to meet you, Ben. I'm very curious about something, Ben. Because this is the first time I come to this kind of event, I'm actually kind of nervous. Have you been to this event before? Have you been to this type of networking event before? Simple, I'm just asking about the location and occasion, right? If let's say the context is a school. So school, what tends to be like a university where people can choose different things or whatsoever, right? Be it whatever context that you have, then you potentially can ask something along the line of like, oh, I'm very curious, what type of major do you take? Again, the whole idea of the location and occasion is supposed to be non-threatening question about the environment. So if again you are at a wedding, then potentially you can ask things about the wedding, right? Which is like, I'm actually here because of the groom. Then like, oh, do you know the groom or do you know the bride? And then the person will just answer, oh, I know the bride, I know the groom, etc. The whole idea of at this level, all you want to do is that after saying hello, you want to be able to just keep the next few lines going, right? But once you're in location and occasion, you can say that, can you keep the conversation in location and occasion? I would say probably not, because all you will end up doing is that you're talking about the weather, right? This place is so nice. Oh, the catering is kind of good. Oh yeah, there's a lot of people over here. So, well, you're not really sharing values. The conversation will get awkward very quickly and will get, in some sense, it will be quite meaningless, right? Because we are not sharing values. So the whole idea is that you want to bring location and occasion eventually down to a stage deeper, which is your passion, your occupation. To me, I find it easy to also include motivation here. Now, at this stage, right, the passion, occupation, and motivation, what you're basically trying to do is to ask them questions of the things that they value. So if let's say right now we're in a networking event, then probably you want to, after you spoken to Ben, and then Ben said that oh yeah, actually I've been to a few of this type of events, and then probably I'll ask something along the line of oh, do you enjoy? Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. Do you enjoy this type of events? And then probably he'll go yes or no, regardless of what you say, yes or no, doesn't matter. The whole idea is that I have to ask oh, then I'm very curious about something what actually made you join this type of events? So it comes down to motivation, right? Motivation, why do you choose to do this? Again, if let's say the conversation is not going in the way of motivation, you can say that, what if the context is not a networking event? What if the context is that I'm meeting this person in school or my workplace for the first time? We got different departments, just like in school we have different majors, right? Then you can use these two interchangeably. You can be like, oh, I'm very curious about something. What is your major? Or what department were you from? What department are you from? Or what is your occupation? And regardless of what you say, you can always goes down to like, oh wow, that's very interesting. Like, what makes you choose that particular things? So again, you are going into passion or occupation, right? Of course, passion is the best. Passion is the best. I tend to like to use this, which is like, I'm very curious about something. What is the thing that you like to do in your free time? Or if let's say I'm interacting with them in the context of, there's many contexts that this will apply. If I'm in a school setting and we are taking different major, then I'll ask, what makes you do this? What makes you take up this major? Is it something that you're interested in? Is it something that you're passionate about? There's a lot of different ways for you to actually play around here, right? So the whole idea is that you don't want to stick to small talk. You want to eventually move on into passion, occupation, and motivation. And like I said, there's so many different ways for you to do this. The whole idea is that so long as you keep in mind that these are the things that you want to talk about, right? The reason why why occupation is in this list, by the way, this is not my framework, this is David Synder's framework, right? The reason why occupation is in the list is because most of the time, guys in general is going to define ourselves based on our occupation. So in some sense, you can say that our occupation is the thing that gives us value. And if I'm doing well in occupation, then you can say that I'm very proud to share that I'm this, right? People don't say that like I work as an accountant. They say that I am an accountant. In neuro-linguistic programming, that two statements sound similar, but actually they are quite different in terms of how deeply we attach ourselves to the value and to that statement. So of course, ideally, now that you're in passion and occupation, by the way, if the conversation just sticks over here, right? To me, I see it as it's A-okay. The whole idea is that you can keep the conversation running in terms of passion, occupation, motivation for as long as you want. It's perfectly fine. But there is one deeper level that you can go if you want to, if you find the opportunity to. Most of the time, it's actually quite easy for people to transition from 2 to 3, right? It's actually not a very difficult thing. Although you can say that transitioning to 3 is optional, most of the time they are going to go down to level 3 anyway. So what is level 3? Level 3 is childhood memory. To me, I also include any historical event. Now, historical event doesn't mean talk about World War II, right? It's not to like, hey, do you know about World War II? That's not what I mean when I say historical event. Although hypothetically, if you are speaking with a veteran and they have some form of attachment to World War II, so long as they are not PTSD, then maybe you can say that like, yeah, you can talk about World War II, right? But again, this will probably fall under passion and motivation. Well, actually, it does fall under historical event. So in that situation, I think that will work. But the whole idea is that childhood memory, historical events, the whole idea is to get them to talk about something that happened in the past. Human beings work in this way. In order for us to reference an event in the past, what we have to do is that we have to bring our emotional state all the way back to the point. So you can say that in order for them to actually tell you what is it like when they're younger, or just to bring out a certain amount of memory, it's going to bring up all the other good feelings, right? So if, for example, if let's say this person is a working adult and they are sharing something that happened to them when they are in, let's say they are 17, 18 years old in polytechnic, and keep in mind that back then 17, 18 years old probably is a little bit more stress-free compared to adults, right? Where adults, there's so many things to worry about. But back then when we are just like children, practically children, 17 to 18 years old, all we worry about is just like, the things that we enjoy, right? Life is so carefree, and all the friends that you have along the way, and then all the good feelings that you have on a daily basis, when they go back in time to reference that memory, or they would bring all that positive emotion with them. And the magic thing, and the reason why this is on the list of 3 magic questions of David Synder, is because when you are with them in that conversation, when they are bringing their own mental state back in the past, what tends to happen is that they tend to associate you with knowing them for a very long time. Because now that you are privy to the information that the other people wouldn't have, you're privy to the information of what happened back when they're 17, 18 years old makes it seem as though you know them for a very, very long time. And you can say that those type of memory tends to be very private, right? Because we don't go around just sharing about when I was young, this is what happened. When I was young, I played with this, yada yada. So usually for me, I rely more on historical event. But the reason why childhood memory is on here is because for David Synder's framework, he put childhood memory. But I'll bring up one point, right? Childhood memory, I still use childhood memory as a last resort kind of thing, right? If let's say I have nothing to talk about, then I'll go into childhood memory. That's where I'll be like, what is it that you played when you're younger? Do you play Pokemon? That's a last resort, right? But one of the way that you can see how 2 will transition to 3 is something along the line of, if let's say I'm having a conversation with a person, then let's say I ask like, Ben, I'm very curious about something. Why do you choose to come to this type of networking for entrepreneurs? And then maybe Ben would say something along the line of like, because when I was younger, then my family have a business, and I see, and we get to enjoy all these luxuries and everything like that. And then I get to like meet all the bosses, and then I see the life philosophies of everybody from there. And then it kind of like builds upon the thing that I believe to a certain extent, my belief systems, and etc. So you can really say that most of the time when you speak in terms of motivation, occupation, and passion, right, people will tend to bring themselves in the past anyway. So for example, I'm very curious, why are you interested in, you seem very interested in psychology. What makes you, where do you think that passion come from? Or are you seem very passionate about psychology. Is that the case? And then where did the passion come from? Then the person will probably be like, when I was younger, when I was 13, then there was this event where I noticed that there's people around me who fall in love with each other. Then I want to figure out who likes who, and that's what got me into psychology. So you can say that by nature, people are going to go into historical event and childhood memory, right? So the whole conversation that I touched on so far for 40 plus minutes, I'm definitely going to overshot this really, really badly. Unfortunately, I'm so sorry. But I'm only just touching about the 3 magic question, right? So now, hopefully I'll cover the rest of this point within the next 8 to 10 minutes, so that I can end this nicely at 50. So now that you know that the 3 magic question framework is as such, okay, I'm supposed to speak to them about location, occasion. I'm supposed to go into passion, their occupation, their motivation, and eventually go down to historical events, right? This is the framework that more or less the map that you want to follow. Okay, this is what you want to carry, and your strategy plan when it comes to the conversation, right, is to follow this map accordingly. But how do you get the other person talking? How does the mirroring and sense of importance comes into the equation? This is how. Now, when I explain all those things, and I give those stories about the conversation that I have with Ben, and Ben sharing his stories, I'm not utilizing any mirroring and sense of importance. The whole idea of mirroring and sense of importance, right? In order for you to apply mirroring and sense of importance, you have to do one thing and one thing only. You have to pay attention. If you utilize your 3 magic question along with mirroring and sense of importance, you do not need to worry about what you need to say next. If you are stressing about what you need to say next, you are actually doing you are doing all these principles wrong. Right? You are actually focusing on the wrong other person. You don't focus on yourself. You need to realize one thing. All it matters is what you ask. And to a certain extent, you can say that most of the time, to a certain extent, you can say that it's very difficult for you to ask the wrong question. So long as you stick to things such as what got you into that? I'm very curious about something, or why do you choose to do it? This is basically your 5 whys 1 W, right? Just ask question in general. Why do you choose to do it? Or when you're younger, what do you choose to play with? And everything. The whole idea is that you're trying to dig out motivations, their passion. And if you hit on the passion, trust me, you don't have to ask any sort of follow-up question. They are going to continue to talk. So the whole idea with mirroring and sense of importance is that now you know that you need to pay attention to the other person. this is what the average conversation is going to be, right? So if let's say I change the context, now we're not talking to Ben. Okay, we are talking to oh man, I need a female name. Why is it so difficult for me to come up with a female name? Female name randomizer. Just any random name. Yeah, come on. Write me some names. Okay, Lisa. So Lisa. I don't know any Lisa in real life actually. Kind of a rare name. Okay, so let's say it's Lisa, right? I'm speaking with Lisa for the very first time. And the context is it's school. So for example, if let's say I want to talk to Lisa, I'll be like, hey, nice to meet you. My name is Elong. What's your name? And the healthy way for Lisa to actually answer that question is that like, oh, nice to meet you. My name is Lisa. And then that's where most people struggle, right? They have the pause, okay, so what do I say now? In this situation, you start to go into your 3 magic question. But you always remember one thing, right? Where mirroring and sense of importance come in is that whenever the other person opens the mouth, this is an invitation for you to actually start to see whether you can apply your mirroring and sense of importance. So in that context, Lisa answered that like, oh, my name is Lisa, nice to meet you. In that sense, you can say that there's maybe nothing to mirror. At best, maybe the thing that I can mirror is like, oh, your name is Lisa, but that's a little bit meaningless, right? So we're going into 3 magic question. And me, I know Lisa from school. So maybe Lisa would say something along maybe the thing that I'll ask, right? Because most of the time, if Lisa asks the first question, then it doesn't really matter. We'll just play by ear at that point of time. But assuming that I have to be the first person to ask the question to Lisa, that will be maybe the environment that we're in. So let's say we are attending a school event. So that's where I meet her for the first time. Then let's say it's a class, right? So maybe class is more appropriate because that's something that most people will meet their crush or the person that they like, their love interest and everything like that. So let's say it's a class. So probably I can be like, oh, Lisa, I'm very curious about something. Like, have you taken a class in this type of subject before? If let's say this is a business subject or this is a psychology subject, maybe you can ask something like this. Or you can ask something along the line of the major, right? So you're like, I'm very curious about something. Lisa. What is the major that you're taking right now? Then in this case, you can say that Lisa can practically answer anything, right? She can say engineering, she can say computer science, she can say psychology, she can say business, she can say HR, she can say marketing. Like there's so many different things that you can say. Regardless of what she says, you need to apply your mirroring and sense of importance. So when she says something along the line of like, oh, I'm in psychology, before any other thing comes out of your mouth, the first thing that you should do is give sense of importance and mirror. Okay? Oh, you're in psychology, right? I'm mirroring the words that she used, right? She used psychology. I'm like, oh, you're in psychology? Wow, that's very interesting. I'm very curious about something. Like, why do you choose to take psychology as a major? So you can really see that like I'm transitioning from the 3 magic questions straight away to passion already, right? I don't need to talk too much about the weather. Can you talk about the weather? Yes, you can. If you're a little bit nervous, you are basically throwing whatever question out there, right? Like for example of like, oh, I've never been to like this type of classroom before. This classroom tend to be a little bit smaller. They're like, have you ever taken this class around this size before? Then she'll say, yeah, that's kind of like I've taken a class before. Then maybe you'll ask something along the line of, oh, what other mod do you take? They're like, oh, I took this mod and everything like that. And at some point you'll probably ask like, oh, do you enjoy that mod? So the whole idea is you're still going in terms of passion and motivation and the occupation, right? In this context, you can say occupation is interchangeable with majors. So the whole idea is that you always, regardless of what comes out of her mouth, she can say that like, I've taken a class that is about this size before. Oh, you taken a class about this size before? Oh, that's very interesting. They're like, how is it like for you? Like, oh yeah, the course is I think it's easier, but then there's less group, so maybe like you'll know a few people and everything like that. Maybe it's easier for us to talk to a lecturer. Or it's easier for us to talk to a lecturer. It's easier for you to talk to a lecturer. Like, was there a situation in the past where you actually felt like it helped you to speak to the lecturer, in such a small class? Then regardless of how she answers, right, she can be like, yeah, you know, like there was this thing that happened to me, and then like I had trouble understanding this concept. Oh no, you have a trouble. No, you probably don't need to say the oh no, right? But the whole idea is that you're trying to mirroring throughout the conversation. You're like, oh, you have difficulty understanding the concept. No, yeah, I have difficulty understanding the concept. But then the way that the lecturer is able to explain to me, you know, that is much more clearer. Because I explain in this way, and then like, you know, he said this and this and this. Now like, oh, he says this and this and this. All you are basically doing is just applying your mirroring and sense of importance and bringing them as deep as possible as you can go when it comes down to 3 magic question. So this is like situation number 1, right? What if I give another situation? What if this is 2 friends sharing stories, cruise stories again, for example? Then like, you know, hey, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while. How have you been? They're like, hey, I've been good, man. Like I just came back from a cruise and it was wonderful, man. They were like, oh, you just came back from a cruise? Wow, that's awesome, man. Like, how did it go? Yeah, I went to this particular cruise. It's very affordable. The room was very nice. The facility is very good. The food was amazing. Yeah, the food was amazing. And then I did so many different things. I went to this particular port, and then like I met this local. Oh, you met a local? Wow, what happened next? And I'm like, yeah, I went to local, and then like she's so nice, and like, she was so cute. She's so cute. Yeah, she's so cute. And then basically, if you notice, right, you use this framework. And by the way, like now I'm giving away the secret of how I'm actually speaking to people on a daily basis, right? So now obviously people who know me and they watch this, they're gonna be like, oh, so in actual fact, Elon is speaking to me in this one-dimensional way. Unfortunately, yes, I'm very sorry, but the whole idea is that you're just constantly using mirroring and sense of importance over and over and over and over again. That's all. If you do your job right, the whole idea is that you'll realize at the end of the conversation, you practically said nothing. All you did was ask surface level question. What is the conclusion that the other person... Okay, so for example, if let's say I was speaking with Lisa, right, and I did whatever I needed to do, which is ask about the psychology. They're like, oh, what got you into psychology? Then she shared about, oh, when I was younger, I was like watching this, you know, drama. Then I was like interested in the thing. Then this particular character is able to read body language. And I feel like that's very interesting. So I wanted to learn about psychology, and I went to did this. And all I'm doing is mirroring, right? I'm doing exactly the same thing. Oh, you watched the drama? They're like, wow, that's very interesting. They're like, what happened next? And what happened next, etc. So long as I do everything perfectly, Lisa will end the conversation thinking that, wow, Elon is such a good conversationalist. I had such a good time speaking with Elon. Realistically, what's the thing that I said? Practically, right? Maybe at surface level, right? But most of the time, right, it doesn't matter. You're gonna, in terms of like speaking, if let's say we have a pie chart, likelihood I'm like 5% of conversation, and then the other person is like 95% of the conversation. At the end of the day, the person leave the conversation with warm fuzzy feeling. What is the thought that they have? I had such a good conversation with Elon, and the reason why I have a good conversation with Elon must be because I like him. I like his company. And to a certain extent, you can even say that they might even conclude to say that like the reason why I shared so much in depth with Elon is because Elon is my close friend. It builds the bond so quickly. I have clients that on the first meeting that I have with them, they shared about the most troubling story that they have in the earliest part of their marriage, right? And then they say that like, oh, I'll never forgive my spouse because of that thing. And I ask myself, is this the normal conversation that you have, or normal thing that you tell your financial advisor for the first time when you meet them? Probably not. What's the reason? Why is this person telling me all these things? It's because all this framework works so effectively. It hijacks the subconscious mind and it digs out information, right? Because again, you are working the person's ego. Every human being, we have an ego, right? Myself included. Will this framework work on me? I promise you, this framework, when applied correctly, will also work on me, right? Someone will be able to use this framework and get me to talk for 45 minutes on psychology, you know, like, you know, body language is this, you know, and then like, you know, if you want to know power is this, right? They're going to get me to talk about all these things because I'm human at the end of the day. This will work on the person because the person is human, just like this will work on me because I'm human. So another reason why we find a certain amount of bond, or rather we tend to bond to people who we have shared intimate information about, is because the way that I see it, information by themselves is as if they are a little organism. And whenever we retain information that another person gave to us, it is as though a part of them lives within us. If you want to be even more charismatic, whenever you speak to somebody for the next time, so let's say, right, I had a good conversation with Lisa, right? Oh wow, Lisa just basically vented on her whole reasoning of why she got into psychology, and I did my mirroring and sense of importance perfectly, right? I got her talking for as long as possible. The next time that I meet Lisa, then probably I want to reference a little bit of the things that she shared with me previously. In any way that I can, right? In any way that I can. If let's say she's saying that she's focusing on a project, she's actually doing a side project right now because of interest or anything like this, or she's in a small interest group but they have these troubles, which is normal, right? Because people also talk about troubles. They'll say that I have this interest group that I have that has this trouble. Then in that sense, what you want to say is not wow, that's very interesting. What you want to say is oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that. Then what happened? So again, sense of importance works only if you were to apply the correct sense of importance, right? If they are looking for sympathy, give them sympathy. If they are looking for validation, you give them validation. If you utilize that correctly, then you can say that Lisa would feel wow, I can't believe Ilong remembered the thing that I told him. It reinforced the fact that you are a good listener. These whole frameworks don't work on the idea of what do I say. It works on the idea of how to actually listen properly. What you're basically doing is paying attention. You're playing a rhythm game, right? Where the whole idea is that, okay, this person just said something, then mirror immediately, hit the thing perfect. You're trying to get a high score. You're playing a rhythm game, so to speak, right? This person says this. Oh, I noticed this person saying this. They're looking for sense of importance. They're looking for sympathy. Give sympathy. Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that, right? Then what happened next? This is literally what you're doing. So before I end off, right, there's also this one important thing that I need to mention, because keep in mind that this is the ideal situation where you basically get to keep asking questions and the person keep talking and keep talking and keep talking. Most of the time, in order for this to go so smoothly, the other person have to have a high degree of either loneliness, they're extremely lonely, which is why they feel like they need to share everything with you, or two, they are very egoistic or narcissistic, so to speak, so they enjoy speaking to them about themselves. Realistically, this is what's gonna happen, right? I'm gonna give you another context. If let's say I'm speaking with Lisa now, all over again, right? So instead of meeting her in class, I'm meeting her in a networking event for entrepreneurs. So I speak to her now, hi, my name is Ilong, what's your name? Oh, hi, my name is Lisa, nice to meet you. Now I'm very curious about something, Lisa, because this is the first time I've been to this type of event, right? And I'm actually kind of nervous. Have you been to this type of events before? And then maybe Lisa will be yeah, I've been to this type of events before. They're oh, you've been to this type of event before? Yeah, and but I'm still not very comfortable with it. Oh, you're still not very comfortable with it? I'm very curious about something, Lisa. What is it that motivated you to come to this event? Then maybe Lisa will say something along the line of, yeah, so I grew up in a business family. Oh, you grew up in a business family? Yeah, and it actually does this particular business, right? So maybe my family does carpentry, and we growing up, we have some of the luxuries. I get to enjoy a better life that I would see that my peers didn't really get to enjoy. Or you get to enjoy a better life than your peers didn't get to enjoy. Yeah, so but then at a certain point, my family business actually ran into some financial issues because of the market cycle of this particular year. And then oh, your family ran into some financial issues. Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that. Then what happened next? They're yeah, so but anyway, after that we recovered and then we built from scratch, right? So that's when, because now that I'm a little bit older at that point of time, then I was able to have a hand in helping to build the family business up again. Oh, you have a hand in building the business up again? Wow, that's so very interesting. That's so impressive. Yeah, so the whole idea is that this whole thing also teaches me about like the sense of entrepreneurship and the sense about like owning your own destiny, and I would prefer to do that instead of just to be an employee. Like owning your destiny, right? You prefer to do that instead of just to be a employee. Like, oh, that's very cool, man. Then like, yeah, like anyway, like I'm very curious. Then like, Elon, what about you? Why do you come to this event? So if all I'm teaching you is just how to answer question, right? The moment that Lisa asks you that thing, like, why do you come to this event, you're gonna be stuck. What is the thing that you need to do if somebody asks you the question? When it comes down to the mirroring and sense of importance framework, keep in mind, this is not the time for you to talk for 30 minutes. This is a trap, by the way. If you take the mic at that point and start to talk about your life story of why you went to the entrepreneur events and everything for 30 minutes, it's a trap. You do that, you talk to Lisa, you probably won't see Lisa ever again, right? Lisa, I would say that I think stereotypically, it seems that girls tend to be more intuitive when it comes down to this type of speaking style than guys. So I think by nature, because you can say that more agreeable by nature, they tend to be less rude in cutting somebody off. So if you actually speak, you try to talk the ears off a girl, the girl would likely be there to like just listening out of politeness, although she might not care. So this is a trap, right? This is not an invitation for you to get your sense of importance. Again, we are not here for sense of importance. So if this happened to you, what you need to do is, number one, answer honestly. Okay, if she asks you like, why do you come to this event, there's no point lying. Don't think of any sort of lie. Just answer honestly, right? If let's say it's because like you're interested in it, you just say so. Like, I'm very interested about the idea about starting a business, because I think that at this day and age, it seems like the most sensible thing to do instead of actually working as an employee. Answer honestly, straight to the point. To the point. And number 3 is ask question. If you do this correctly, this is basically trying to hit the ball back into the court, right? So she had just asked you a question, or like, why do you get into this event? Then what you basically need to do is just answer honestly. I'm very interested in entrepreneurship, because I think that in this day and age, it's more sensible for people to actually take control of our own destiny. If you can use her words, this is the time that you use her words, right? Remember, she mentioned something about taking control of her own destiny. Repeat the words. When you repeat the words, it will resonate with the other person at a level that is unspeakable, right? Because again, the illusion that creates is that you have the exact same map as them. So you can say something along the line of like, we take control of our destiny. Again, important that this has to be honest, right? If you don't believe in the same view as her, then no point mirroring her views, right? But if you happen to have the same view to a certain extent, then there's nothing wrong with just mirroring her. So saying something along the line, I feel like, it makes a lot of sense to take control of the destiny, and what's the point of being an employee, right? And then of course, probably she'll feel the resonance. They're like, wow, I can't believe I just found somebody who is so similar to me. This is the part that you ask question, right? You bring it back to her. So like, now that you've done this, like, I'm very curious about something. What is the entrepreneur, or what is the business venture that you actually feel like if you can start today, immediately, right, tomorrow is just going to create out from nowhere? What is it that you're actually going to do? Like, what type of business do you actually want to run? Then probably at this point, she'll say anything. She can say literally anything, right? Clothing, cafe, carpentry, interior design, doesn't really matter. But the whole idea is that from there, all you need to do is just continue doing your mirroring, your sense of importance, your 3 magic question, and then you'll be great, right? And the whole idea is that at the end of the conversation, it all comes down to one thing: she's gonna like you more and more. So in any case, I really did overshot really, really badly in this video. Okay, it's 1 hour and 5 minutes, but hopefully with me sharing this framework is going to help you to a certain extent. And I also understand that like sometimes when I explain things, it's a little bit more confusing. So hopefully you're able to understand it. In any case, if you have any views, you have any thoughts on the matter, then do let me know. And moving forward, probably the next video that I'm going to be making, it's going to be along the line of either going to be power, me teaching about, okay, now I teach about influence, what's the difference between influence and power, and or it can be along the line of attraction, right? Because now I taught to a certain extent how to actually speak to somebody like Lisa, but there's so many other intricacies, such as like how do human being actually fall in love, right? What is the system of love when it comes to a human being? So if it's something that you're interested in, then probably this is something that I'll share in the future. All right, with that in mind, take care, and I'll see you on the next one.